Welcome to SEC Football Live here from the 440 Sports Network. My name is Braden Gall, and joining me, good friend of the pod, Chris Childers, of course, from SiriusXM Full Ride. You can follow him on twitter.com at Childers Radio. A lot of fun stuff planned for you guys today. Childers, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's good to see your beautiful smiling face, as always, and the sausage T-shirt, and not to mention the Jason Isbell posters in the background. And so, and the Packers chair. It's always a welcome sight. Yes, I always forget I'm talking to an NFL owner, but
that's true.
Very important. Yes, it's true.
I am. Look. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and share that YouTube video. Of course, if you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, please share the product. Give us some retweets. We're gonna have time for your questions and comments, of course, in the show if you want to jump in and ask those questions. But yes, if you are watching the product, of course, many of you listen via podcast. But if you are watching the product, that's right. You cannot spell sausage without USA, baby. So lots of stuff to talk about today on the show. We're in the middle of magazine production for Athlon Sports. I've worked there since 2007, and we know when we put the magazine together, we're going to get a lot of stuff right, and we're going to get a lot of shit wrong. And one of the things we try to do each year is we put our predictions down on paper. We kind of spend some time putting them together, and then we try to go back with a fresh set of eyes and say, what are we missing? What are we going to get completely wrong? Because it's going to happen. Your predictions, Chowders, you make them all the time. We have to do these things in sports talk. And like half of them are wrong, half of them are right. And I wanted to sort of lay out some really big ones that if we all get wrong in the SEC, what does that mean for the sport? What does that mean for the teams? What does that mean for the coaches and the players? There's so many things that I think we assume are going to happen in the SEC this year. So I got a long list here that I want to lay out and see where you take them should these things happen. Like, what if Quinn Ewers sucks at quarterback? What if he takes a step back for Texas? What does that mean for Steve Sarkisian, for Texas, for Quinn Ewers, for Arch Manning? So those are the kinds of questions that I want to ask today. What happens if the Vols actually make the playoffs? Like, does the world cease to exist, or do we still continue to exist on this planet? I don't know. But those are the kind of questions that I want to ask today on the show.
There'll be a lot of people I don't like very happy. I'll say that. You're not one of them, but there's a lot of people I don't like that will be happy.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But one of the things that you and I were talking about before the show, and I kind of wanted to start with, because like normally when you and I got started back in 2005, we would spend this month of the year like deep diving into position battles from spring practice, depth charts from spring practice, new coaching schemes from spring practice, quarterback battles from spring practice. And the portal window closed yesterday. Not every player's made their decision. But at the end of the day, I think spring practice has never meant less for fans and for media trying to predict what's going to happen in the sport than it does today. Did you learn anything at all?
No.
In spring practice?
I didn't learn anything at all. I didn't expect to learn anything at all. I think last year was the greatest, kind of revelation about what these are now. For example, we had the Colorado spring game nationally televised a year ago on ESPN. It was the only one that was put on ESPN. I think like 80% of the guys were gone the next day. So we watched a spring game that meant literally nothing. Outside of seeing Dion on the sidelines wearing his shades, it didn't matter. I don't even know why they practiced at that point.
They had Lil Wayne this year, right?
They did. They spiced it up a little bit, and they're in defense mode again about the roster and the transfer portal, and who knows? I think that's a disaster in its own right. A different story when it talks to Colorado, but you were talking about putting together the magazines, and I've been a magazine fan forever. I love Athlon, and I certainly respect the other ones, but I've always been a huge fan of what you guys do.
Can't recall their names.
Yeah, well, screw them. And quite frankly, I think Athlon's always been the best. But I was talking about this morning on my show. I said, I wonder how hard it is for those guys to do their jobs, because you don't even know who's on the team, and you expect the magazines to be out Memorial Day weekend. So how can you possibly be accurate? And I don't think you can. I just think that the world has changed. Now, you can, to me, the magazines are like a good reference point now for scheduling, and not too deeps anymore, because you don't know, but you kind of,
it's for fun. It's like any ranking in
fun. Yeah, it's like, something exactly. And then you kind of, but I used to look at them like a Bible that I would use as a reference guide. When I was, looking at a 2 deep or looking at returning starters or whatever it was for me as a media member, it was an important tool that I used. And now
easy.
everything else
no,
up in the air. I mean,
I will say this, like, I know this is an SEC show. We're going to spend the vast majority talking SEC, but this applies. I think it applies as you go down the ranks in college football. Like, I think the top level teams, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Michigan, Florida State, whatever. Pick the top 15 or 20 programs that we think are going to be very good this year. I think we have a pretty good sense of who they're going to be, and we have a pretty good sense of what they're going to be. How good? 12-0 versus 10-2 versus 9-3. That's always sort of like the beauty of the game. We don't know. But what I've learned through this production process is even the bottom half of the SEC is far more difficult to predict than the top half. Yeah. And then you go down another layer, and there are certain teams in certain conferences that have 0 or 1 or 2 returning starters in the MAC or in Conference USA that because they've been picked over by the Power 5 leagues.
Yeah.
And it's like you have a new coordinator, a new coach, and 1 returning starter. What the fuck are you? We have no clue.
Well, the coaches don't know what the fuck they are.
No.
Honestly. No. And this goes back to being a group of 5 coach has got to be the worst thing in the world right now, because I'd rather be a coordinator and then have a shot to get a head coaching job at a Power 5 level than ever cutting my teeth as a group of 5 coach and then hoping that I can advance. That wasn't always the case. I think, certainly back in the day, you could cut your teeth, you could, find some hidden gems, and you could have a little sustainability and then get promoted and go to a bigger job. But nowadays, I mean, these guys are fighting with 2 hands tied behind their back and 2 legs tied together. I mean, they just don't go into a fight with a fair chance. They don't have the collectives. They don't have the amount of, they got little collectives, but not anywhere near that's going to be competitive.
Are you suggesting size matters?
Little tiny, yeah. They're the Chris Childers of collectives.
A collectivito.
Yeah. Itty bitty. We're not playing with much.
No,
Me and the mid majors. But anyway, I look at those collectives, and like, for example, I'll tell you what.
You're the Kent State of media.
I am. I really am. I mean, I'm hardly a man, if I can even be called that. But I mean, it's funny because it's true. Let's be honest.
No, stop it.
But I
think your school has quite an endowment.
Yeah, very girthy endowment. I was talking to Rick Stockstill, the coach of Middle Tennessee, the old coach of Middle Tennessee, a year ago. Yeah. And Neuheisel proposed to him. He said, any way that we could, take some of these games that we hate in the fall, like Middle Tennessee versus Alabama, and play them in the spring and make spring football sexy and, have 2 teams go at each other and make it controlled. And Stockstill said, I would love to do it. But here's the thing. I don't want them to see my left tackle. Because if they do, and he's good, by the end of by next week, he could be playing for Saban. And
it's real life scouting.
That's a real thing. I mean, these guys, you saw what Saban said during the draft last week about the kid from Toledo that went 22nd to the Eagles, the corner. He said that was our number 1 guy in the portal. He never got in there. But how is he your number 1 guy? Yeah. How is he your number 1 guy in the portal if he wasn't in the portal? You obviously were trying to. And we all know tampering happens, but he just told us it happens, which I actually found refreshing that somebody actually said it.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like it happens so much in the NFL that they had to call the period of time legal tampering.
Yeah.
They're like, here's free agency here. But before that, there's a period where you can legally tamper, which by definition is illegal, and you can't do it. Yeah. Also, I don't know how any human being gets a job in this country in any industry without some sort of communication to another job before they leave said job, unless they're like storming out like Jerry Maguire style.
Exactly.
Like everyone has. Also, these kids all know each other. They all play on the 7-on-7 circuits. They all know each other through the recruiting circuits. They all know each other. So how do you stop a kid from having a cell phone and relationships? You can't. So of course there's communication happening. And so look, this is why, again, we're at 2028. We're gonna have collectively bargained revenue sharing agreements with rules and regulations. They're going to be employees so that you can put in place a contract, which means you can't break the contract for either side of the party. It's all going to be like that. And
I think Bob Sugar negotiate.
Eventually it's yes. And it'll be like it'll be actually probably, I think, a wing of the NFL Players Association. Mm-hmm. Who's more qualified to negotiate for the players than
nobody?
The Players Association.
Well, that's the thing. We already have people doing this, right?
Yeah,
it's not foreign. It's not like we have to reinvent it. We just have to follow a good model.
Yep. And the model will be put in place. It's going to be put in place faster than people realize. And then the conferences are going to expand, and then they're going to come together and have a commissioner. But we've already discussed this like 100,000 times.
Have you got into the whole house thing on the show? The house?
No, I don't want to talk about it. I'm tired of talking about it. No, I want to talk about football on the field today. And I want to talk about like things that we are not seeing. And it's not that we're not seeing them.
Fuck you then. I want it. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, fine.
Like, I want to talk about it.
You're so angry.
Jeez.
You're such a violent man.
We're burning down the house.
All right.
I was like delayed fuck you to see your facial reaction. You're like, what? Huh? I thought we moved on. Go ahead. Sorry.
I hit a segue, Childers. What's wrong with you? Have you ever done live radio before?
Never, actually. This is my first time.
So the most, like, I've got like 9 or 10 questions here about 9 or 10 different teams, and I want to see where you take them. And so the thing that I am most fascinated by because we have this chaos season coming, right? We have a 12-team playoff, never had that before. No divisions in the SEC, never had that before. Texas and Oklahoma, never had that before. And it's not just the SEC, it's all the other conferences too. We don't know what we don't know about this sport coming up in 2024. Now, I have come around since doing the magazine and looking at these schedules and looking at the great games that are going to happen in this conference and looking at what a 12-team matchup could look like on paper, actually trying to predict it in the magazine. I am genuinely excited. I think the video game is going to come out and people are going to be like, holy shit, Kentucky could make the playoff. This is awesome. And it's going to be awesome. People are going to love it. But every year we do this, we have no clue. See, there we go. There we go. There's our commenter in the pod with J-Rod. Arkansas is really going to sneak up on some teams this season. There you have it. That's the kind of stuff that we could that I want. So there's a lot of fascinating storylines here, but the one that I find maybe the most interesting that I think will have a ripple effect across the entire conference is what happens if the Ole Miss experiment fails miserably. And if the Ole Miss experiment fails miserably, meaning they go all in, they convince the boosters that this is the right way to acquire talent. You've got a heck of a good established football coach in Lane Kiffin. You've got an established starter at quarterback. You've got all the things. You've got a schedule that sets up nicely for you in a new difficult conference. What happens if they go 8-4 and the whole experiment doesn't work? Does that change the way we view the strategy with which Ole Miss executed this offseason, or is it just college football being college football?
For me, it'll be layered. Because I'm not the biggest Lane Kiffin fan. I just think he is a walking, talking. He's a good football coach, I guess. But I think as a human being, he's just a buffoon. Like, he's just like kind of. I've been around him enough to be like, I don't know what this is. I'm sure there's some sort of, clinical term for being really witty on your keyboard and then really awkward in person.
So social anxiety disorder?
Maybe, yeah. I don't know what the hell it is, but he is like, I don't know. Something about Lane has always rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. But this is kind of, with the expansion of the playoff, I don't think there's been a team that's gotten more conversation than them. I don't think there's a team that's expected to be in there more than them. Not like we're thinking that they're going to be at the top, like, or win the SEC. But I think by expanding to 12 with the team they're bringing back and what they've done in the portal and how they've recruited guys, the minimum, I think, is to finish top 12 and be in this. And, maybe win a game. I think we all expect that this playoff is going to elevate the Ole Misses of the world. It's going to elevate the Penn States of the world. It's going to put them
Penn State is offended that you put those two programs in the same sentence.
Well, that's what Penn State is to me nowadays. They're the next tier. They're the top of the next tier in the Big Ten. And I think, besides Georgia and, maybe Alabama, LSU, I would say that next tier in the SEC, Ole Miss is right there. And maybe they're, leaning towards the top tier. I think what it's going to be is it's going to show us, is this the new way of the world?
Yeah.
Until we have collective bargaining, until we have some sort of fix. And I know you didn't want to go down the house route, but unless we have some sort of fix to that, and this is the way that the world is able to live and work, I think this will be a grand example that you can piece it together and you can have a great collective and you can win as much as you want.
So I think you've kind of defined the upper half of this. I think if you were to say, hey, what happens with the Ole Miss experiment? If it's a complete success, I think best case scenario, you're talking about a game that you win in the playoff, maybe a second one.
Well, if they don't, you blow. I mean, you obviously realize that it doesn't. That there's some semblance of team needs to matter. Some semblance of
development
needs to matter. I don't think Dan Hurley's 2 championships have been accomplished in vain. I think he proved something to all of us that chemistry matters. Now, I know it's 5 as opposed to 22, but I think it applies. I mean, in anything, the people that you work with, if you work with people that you don't get along with and you really don't know and you don't trust, there's going to be that kind of, I think, work anxiety. But if it's people that you really, know and you love and you know their kids and their family and their mom and dad, and there's something different about going to work with that guy, that you're willing to go a little extra to sacrifice yourself for them.
Oh, don't you think
that matters?
If it fails miserably, not only will opposing fans and Twitter just absolutely destroy Lane Kiffin.
Oh, they'll kick his ass, and rightfully
but
so.
There will be leaks from the ship. I guarantee you. I guarantee you there will be stories.
I hope so.
And leaks. If they go 8-4 and this whole thing doesn't work, which I think they can try it. I don't think when you have to have 35, because I think I've shifted my focus. I used to say 1 to 85 mattered. I think now it's like 1 to 45. Yeah. Like you need a good 2 deep, where the guys who play the most snaps are really, really good. Like that's what I think I've kind of focused on, and they have a pretty good top 45 or 50, and their schedule sets up. But so if it doesn't work, I think there's a lot of conversation about okay, this overblown portal transfer, blah 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 thing. Like no one's ever built a team like this. Free agency, dream team shit doesn't work in the NFL where there actually is free agency. So I don't know. I think now if it works, then that has just as much impact on the sport moving forward as anything. And Lane Kiffin's going to have a lot of tweets to say about it. So
yeah, I think you're right. Oh, he'll be very vocal with his fingers.
All right,
nobody's better with his fingers than Lane.
No, he's magical for Twitter fingers.
Yes.
What if Jalen Milroe is benched? What if Kalen DeBoer cannot figure out? Because I think Jalen Milroe is actually a little underrated. Mm-hmm. Now I know he's flawed. He's not a perfect quarterback, but he reminds me of Michael Vick. His first 3 steps are faster than anybody in the game, especially playing quarterback. I think he carried that team to a lot of games last year. I think very highly of Jalen Milroe. But again, for the sake of the conversation, and I think Kalen DeBoer is an excellent football coach. I think they're going to figure out how to use each other. Let's say it doesn't, though. Let's say Milroe is benched. Number one, how is this the doomsday scenario for Alabama, in which they've lost Nick Saban, they've lost their Heisman Trophy caliber quarterback, they all the entire secondaries in the NFL now. I don't know. I actually don't know what would happen if all of a sudden we look up and they've lost 2 or 3 games before November, and Milroe is the reason, and it's because Kalen DeBoer can't figure out how to use him.
They're going to panic. Everybody in T-Town is already kind of panicked because, I mean, hell, I was listening to the radio the other day. I was flipping through the channels, and there was a arena football game in Nashville, and it was Eli Gold. The former Alabama. Yes. Yeah, he's doing that. Everything's new in Tuscaloosa. There's a new announcer. There's a new coach. There's all kinds of new things. I think if Milroe loses the job, that means they're not very good. That means the offense. Now, I will say, I think they're going to be fine. I really do think that Milroe, and I think Kalen DeBoer, there's something about guys like him that I always have faith in to win and do a good job. The guys that have grinded away from the lower levels, like Lance Leipold, I just think those guys are football coaches, and they'll find a way to maximize what they have. They did it at Division III. They did it at, places like Buffalo, and I think they'll do it, North Dakota, et cetera. They'll find ways to get it done. And they'll adapt to their personnel. Lance Leipold hasn't always had the greatest players, but he's always adapted to what he's had and he's won. So I think DeBoer will do that. If it doesn't happen and your doomsday plays out, my God, I mean, you know how it is. You know what life is like in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban has been Tuscaloosa. He's been the economy. Did you ever go to Tuscaloosa before he was the coach? Did you ever visit?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I actually had. Now that I think about it, I've never thought about that. But
so let me tell you. So I went to a game when I was an undergrad. With
late 90s. Early 2000s.
Early 2000. It might have been 2000 actually. It might have been the 2000 season. I think Lou Holtz was coaching South Carolina when they played the Gamecocks, and I went with some fraternity brothers of mine who are Bama fans. I remember going to campus and thinking, oh, this is all right, the town, but it wasn't anything special. If you go to Tuscaloosa now, like I saw Neil Young there and they have built this great amphitheater that's fantastic. There's all these different, shops and restaurants, like nice places, not just like Chili's, like nice, fancy, good food.
Catching strays, Chili.
Like you know what I mean? Like Chili's is fine, but
I know.
That's how I met you at Chili's. If you
remember, more than Dreamland. More than Dreamland.
No, Dreamland's the most overrated crap.
I know. Saw's Soul.
No offense.
Saw's Soul Kitchen, baby.
You know what pisses me off though about Saw's in
Don't you talk bad about Saw's.
No, here's what they did though. I love it, and it's the place that I always go when I'm in Birmingham. But
Avondale or Birmingham?
Avondale, the one by the Avondale Brewery.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They took something off the menu that I know you're going to be like, why are you getting this at Saw's? But I'm telling you, it's the best thing I've ever had. The shrimp and grits.
Yeah. Oh, shrimp and grits is spectacular there. Yeah.
They took it off.
What?
Yeah, it's gone. I know. And the shrimp and grits. See, thank you. It is so good.
I'm with you. It's the best thing I've had in Birmingham.
The best thing maybe ever. And every time I go there, and I know like people that love like the sweet tea chicken and
so basically
if sick.
Basically, if Jalen Milroe gets benched because he's not good enough, basically
shrimp and grits.
Kalen DeBoer is going the way of the shrimp and grits at Saw's Soul Kitchen. No, look, obviously
he'll be in trouble, but I mean not in trouble, but you know what I mean. Like there will be no faith at all that they hired the right coach. None.
I am. So you mentioned
he's got the hardest job in the country because he's trying to live in the shadow, and it's not like Saban's gone. He's still very much out there. He's more visible now than he ever was.
He's just like lingering.
I mean, you saw him last week. Bad hair dye too. I mean, my God, I don't know if he rubbed shoe polish on his head before. I mean, that was on. It was like Giuliani. Remember when Giuliani had it dripping down his forehead?
Yeah. So
that's
you said
what it looked like.
You said top tier, and right now the debate at Athlon is like, should we have Ole Miss ahead of Alabama? Like that's the actual debate in the preseason rankings. Is Ole Miss actually buy the magazine? Find out, fucker.
No, I'll buy it.
But like that is the debate.
I put Ole Miss ahead of him.
That's the debate, and one of us wants Ole Miss ahead, the other one wants Bama ahead. But that's because like if you are on the Bama side of things, you believe that Kalen DeBoer, to your point about Lance Leipold, who's an excellent coach, who's proven himself.
You believe in Kalen DeBoer.
You believe in Kalen DeBoer. That dude has coached offense all the way up his entire career, and his offenses have been great every step of the way. Why would now, with the best players he's ever had as a roster, him not be good enough? Well, there are better coaches on defense, better teams on defense, different type of game in the SEC. And I know what they're saying about Milroe. He sits too long in the pocket, the intermediate passing game, but he also is a freaking great athlete. So I think they're going to work it out.
Yeah.
But I do think that we are, for the first time in 20 years, at the end of the season, because I don't think they're good enough to win the national championship. I think they're good enough to get to 10 or 11 wins, maybe an SEC title game, and certainly make the playoff. But I don't think they're going to win the whole thing. And if they don't, and it's because they just can't finish games here or there, or they don't solve the problems of the previous few years, there is going to be this power vacuum that Alabama leaves for somebody to take, which leads me to my next point and my next question. What if, again, as I said earlier in the show, a gaping chasm opens in the space-time continuum and the Tennessee Volunteers make the college football playoff? Because I just saw a ton of criticism of the Josh Heupel offense going into the draft. I don't care when analyzing Tennessee's offense at the University of Tennessee about how those players translate systematically to the NFL.
Oh, yeah, who cares?
It is irrelevant. You can call it, you can insult it, you can talk down to it, call it Mickey Mouse, whatever you want. It is irrelevant. It is a productive, extremely difficult college offense to stop. And if they get to the playoff, it's because Nico is good and the Josh Heupel offense is vindicated. He probably goes into Norman and wins against his alma mater. And it means that, I don't love the so-and-so is back conversation. But it shows, to me, what it shows is that the fan support and the resources of big-time college football, and if you're listening, Auburn, Florida, or A&M fan, this is for you. If you have the fans and the resources, all it takes is the right coach and the right quarterback to win. And that is what Nico and Heupel could show us this year. And I don't think it's out of the question to say that team makes the playoff.
No, I don't either. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked at all. I'm not going to say I expect them to, but I think they'll be in the mix. I think they'll be right there. I think Nico's really good. I mean, everything I've seen on the kid, every time I've, talked to Heupel, anytime I've talked to anybody around them, they talk about his maturity, the way he embraces, being a leader, the way he watches film, prepares, all those things. I mean, I've never heard a bad word about the guy. And I really hope he is a star because I think it will be the ultimate fuck you to the NCAA. It'll be the ultimate death knell. Like, kiss my asshole.
Wow.
Fuck you guys for all
Not,
I mean, they've
not the ass, but the hole.
right in there. Get in there. Nose deep, because here's the thing. You've kept people, you've held them down. Yes, exactly. Big old whiff. You've held people down forever. You've fucked Terrell Pryor over. You did all these things. Reggie Bush, finally, the Heisman said, we're gonna get. I mean, over things that were so anti-American. The NCAA was the most anti-capitalist, anti-American, fly in your face, greedy pieces of shit to ever exist.
It's very fascist.
Nico Iamaleava, with the attorney generals fighting for him and the restraining order, will be the ultimate double middle finger, kiss our assholes, NCAA. So I'm rooting for him. You got me fired up. You really do. But I'll tell you what.
Kiss my brown star.
Damn right. They got a nice looking wide receiver group. They got
the offensive line's pretty solid.
Yeah, Brazel. Good line. Running game's a little bit more uncertain, but I think they'll be fine.
Dylan Sampson's a good player, man.
Good player.
Yeah. I think Tennessee, look,
I think they're 10 wins, playoff good. And I think
they are too.
I think they could fill that space-time continuum. And why not?
I think they are
good. In an era of transfer portal, in an era of NIL, why can't they be exceptional? And I think they will be. I think they're going to take advantage of it 100%.
To your point of let's use all these governmental structure analogies like capitalism versus socialism versus fascism. The NCAA is the fascism, right? The NFL is the socialism. College football is capitalistic inherently because he who has the gold has the players, and he who has the players wins the games. And I think one of the lessons, if Tennessee is good quickly, is that Tennessee got on board with the new rules faster than almost anybody. It resulted in Nico Iamaleava coming to Tennessee. And if you get the right coach and you have the right resources and the right fan base, that sort of DNA that is inherent in your program, it doesn't change. It is 110,000 people with a huge budget and a good recruiting base. That doesn't change. It doesn't change for A&M.
No.
It doesn't change for Tennessee. It doesn't change for Bama. It doesn't change for Florida. Now, Bo asked a good question because I want to bring this to our next question, which is why does everyone believe in DeBoer when he's new to the region and down on Elko when he's back in familiar territory? Two things quickly, and then I'm going to set you up, Chris.
Yeah.
Number one, being new to the region is irrelevant. Nick Saban was new to the region in 2001 when he took the LSU job, won a national championship. I think that's a very overrated part of the conversation. Now, Bo, I will say this. I have not heard a single negative thing about the hiring of Mike Elko to Texas A&M. Actually. I think it is a great hire. So here's my question. Here is the crazy wild prediction that I think could have an impact on, because this is truly something that I don't think we talk about out loud enough. What if A&M finally figures it out?
I wouldn't be shocked.
If A&M finally figures it out, they are a monster.
Yeah, they got
in
everything.
This conference, a monster.
Everything, and then validation on top of having every bell, every whistle, every Billy Bob and Jim Bob oil baron, belt buckle wearing kind of resources in the NIL.
10-gallon hat.
Yeah, the 10-gallon hat. You've got all of that at your disposal. Is Connor Wegman a star? I don't know. Is this team going to be any good? But would I be shocked if Elko came in and gave them the little reset? I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be at all, quite frankly. I think he's really good.
I don't think they're playoff good yet. I don't think that that's putting your hand on the burner way too many times in a row. So I'm not going 10-2.
Though?
But I think I think they could win 8. I think there's 3 teams in this conference that could win 8 or 9 games and be way better than anyone thinks. I think it's Florida, I think it's Auburn, and I think it's Texas A&M. I think all 3 of them, one of those 3 is going to be good. And they all might be better than average. They might all be bowl teams. I think Florida's going to be better than people think. The schedule's really hard, but I think they're going to be better than people think. They're going to host
but how many wins, though, with that schedule? That's the problem.
I think if you go 8-4 and you're Billy Napier, Florida fans are ecstatic.
You think they could go 8-4 with that?
Yes.
I mean, that's a pretty hard road.
Yes, I agree. They got Ole Miss and LSU late in the year at home. If you beat Miami and A&M, I mean, again, that A&M Florida game becomes a huge swing game for both coaches. But I think Auburn's going to be better than people think. I don't think they're there yet. but the way Elko builds a culture and builds a defense and they've got dudes. Players are not the problem at A&M. It's been culture and all this other stuff, and Elko fixes a lot of that, and he's built a great staff. I think Texas. So, I mean, I think one of the things that could shake up this conference more than anything that we're going to talk about today is if Texas A&M actually gets their shit together, because that could truly shake up. Alabama stumbles, all of a sudden A&M's really good. We're talking about a shift in the conference.
I think if A&M commits the way they did at Jimbo, as far as resources and financials and collective, and they're all in on Mike Elko, they don't really try to Rich Rodriguez the guy.
Right.
I really think he's a hell of a football coach. As far as defensive coaches, he might be the best in the country. He's so good at taking away what you do well. He's got to have resources, but he's really good when he has Jimmy's and Joe's. If it's just matching up one-on-one, he's really good at taking away what you do well. Brilliant defensive mind. I think his culture at Duke spoke for itself. I actually think it's the less flashy version that's going to work and be exactly what they need.
I completely
agree. That puzzle piece. So, but I also like Kalen DeBoer. Like, that's the thing. I thought Kalen DeBoer was an excellent hire. He's the kind of guy, like I said earlier, that I think Alabama had to hire. Just hire a football coach. Because if you try to hire the next Nick Saban, you're not going to do it. And I don't know if we can have another Nick Saban.
Yeah.
I don't know if the world allows another Nick Saban to happen.
And this is a perfect question here from In the Pod with J-Rod. I don't think there will ever be an unbeaten team in the SEC anymore. And I tend to agree that
how impressive would it be if they do? You know what I mean?
The days of like 16-0, I think are gone. It doesn't mean that somebody doesn't do it at some point, but like if you know how hard it was to go 15, 16-0 in the previous formation of the playoff in the BCS era, like there were not a lot. Now, how many times has Nick Saban gone undefeated?
No, he won a few championships with an L.
Two times. 2009, 2020, only times he went undefeated. Georgia done it one time. They lost games. That historically epic, one of the greatest defenses in the history of mankind, didn't even win the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good point that our value of success has shifted significantly, and it's what makes it so interesting with all these teams in the playoff. That now we have a good Missouri, a good Ole Miss, a good Tennessee, Texas A&M could be good. Florida and Auburn, I think, are going to be improved. Like all of a sudden, you've got Oklahoma and Texas are both teams that historically can get to 10 wins pretty easily. Which brings me to my next question. What if Quinn Ewers struggles? What if Quinn Ewers takes a step back? He's losing Worthy and A.D. Mitchell and Stevenson and Brooks, and he's losing 2 elite defensive tackles. Like, what happens if the offense doesn't hit in their first year in the SEC, and all of the message boards every single night are just burning to the ground with just like thirst trapping Arch Manning all across the internet?
Well, that's what will happen if Quinn takes a step backward. I'll tell you that. And
does he get in the game? Do they go to Arch Manning, or do they let Quinn ride it out?
I don't know. That is all on Steve Sarkisian. I wouldn't be shocked because of the state. Because of the pressure, if he says, screw it, let's see what this kid can do, and let's appease everybody and get him off my ass. Because here's what Sark did a year ago. Getting to the playoff, he's got everybody convinced that everything's fine. That the last 20 years have been erased, that it's good. They have NFL players again. We saw the draft, right? Like the draft had 11 kids taken from Texas. That had not been the norm for the last 15, 20 years. They struggled on the line of scrimmage. We're not seeing that anymore. So every thing is pointing to the fact that Texas is going to the SEC at the right time, that the NIL and transfer portal allowed a culture shift that allowed Texas to immediately catch up again. It fixed the problem. Whatever the issue was, they got it nipped. And the same Billy Bob and Jim Bob, Gallon guys, they got their own at Texas and then some. And then some, right? Like
the belt buckle oil Gallon guys. I like
yes, the big Gallon hat, the belt buckle, and the cowboy boots. And
they got alignment. Like they had alignment because what happened was they were going to let. Now I'm drawing a total blank on who the fucking coach was before them. It was Tom Herman, right?
Herman.
So they found God, aka alignment, when they were going to bring Tom Herman back, and Kevin L. Teef, who's the #1 top guy that runs the entire University of Texas system, basically said, no. And he and all the board of directors went down to DeLoss Dodds and not DeLoss Dodds, Chris Del Conte, and said,
Yeah, Del Conte,
you're getting rid of this guy.
Yeah.
We're moving on. And then they organized and aligned. Steve Sarkisian brings in a staff. He gets rid of all the culture problems that A&M has just hopefully excised from their, like a surgically removed from their program. I still don't know. Like, their schedule is hard. Georgia's schedule is hard. All these schedules are so much harder. And so I think Quinn Ewers is going to be fine. I think Sark is a brilliant offensive mind. I think they have talent. And I think the offensive line, the thing that keeps Texas, I think, alive is the offensive line is elite. But
talk about deflating a balloon, though. If they're like an 8-14, you like the
look at their early schedule. They could lose a couple games in the first couple.
What if A&M has the season we just referenced and Texas is 8-4?
Okay, here's a prediction. I am guaranteed. Like, Texas A&M is going to win that game against Texas. They're going to win it.
Do they win more games than Texas?
I don't think so, but okay. I am almost guaranteeing Texas A&M defeat over Texas in the final game of the season at College Station, Kyle Field, last game of the season. Texas is fighting for something: SEC championship game, playoff berth, home field bye. I don't know what it is. They're going to be. Texas is going to be playing for something. A&M is going to be a pretty good team by then, much better than they will be in week 1, 2, and 3. And A&M wins that game and knocks Texas out of something. I don't know what, but they're going to knock them out of something. Mark the tape.
I'm marking it, and I would love it. I love seeing Texas struggle. No offense, welcome to our league, but they're such arrogant, dude. Come on, like with all the I take those and shove them, you know where.
I will say, I do think every single fan base is too sensitive about their stupid ass hand gestures.
Oh,
every fan base should be allowed to do.
Worst about it.
The Florida Gators are the same.
Oh,
the Florida
God.
Gators.
Who cares? It's a hand signal. What is this? Some like
religious
war? Like, it's a college hand signal.
Are we playing a sport? Are we playing a game or not? What are we doing?
Offending me. All
right.
I took us.
I got a handful more I want to get to here.
Go ahead.
What if Mark Stoops leaves Kentucky? He almost did already. What if he leaves? What if they're just sort of 7-5 again, 8-4 again? Kirk Ferentz retires at Iowa. He decides he wants that job. Maybe he goes to the NFL. I don't know. I'm just saying, again, these are all about crazy predictions. Are Kentucky fans excited? Are they sad? Are they upset? Are they like, who wants the job?
I don't see how you could be excited that he's gone, because who the hell were you without him? I mean, he's made you as relevant as you've ever been. You've been as competitive. You've mattered. He's kind of, alleviated some of the sting of the basketball program pissing all over itself in March. It's not consistently great every year, but I think by Kentucky standards, it's pretty damn good. Now, did the world change and make it harder? Perhaps. Maybe the way he did it and had success over the first, however many years that he was there until a couple of years ago, maybe he can't do it anymore. So maybe they do need somebody else. I don't know the answer to that. Kentucky just might be in harm's way because the world changed. They're not going to play the game from a football perspective. So they are who they are. If I'm Stoops, sayonara. If I think the job's harder than it was, and the job was already hard, there's no way in hell I'm staying around, because it's career suicide for him. And he's been too good. He's done too much to build up his legacy and reputation. I mean, having that kind of longevity at Kentucky is like a modern college football miracle.
I tend to agree. There is I can't shake this feeling that there is going to be some sort of Tubby Smith style amicable divorce at the end of the year. And I don't know why I keep feeling this way. I'm not citing a source. I haven't talked to anybody. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm not trying to be like radio guy coy about some information I got on background. I really there's just a feeling like sometimes you feel like things have, like, he's gotten the program to where it is. He deserves so much credit for it. But I'm wondering if they are both better off in different situations. I don't know. I don't know why I can't shake the feeling. I don't know.
Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't.
Can't stop the feeling. All right.
Joy has nuts.
LSU and Missouri, I'm going to lump them together.
Mounds don't.
What if all of a sudden Blake Baker, Bo Davis, LSU, I don't think this is going to be the case, but I'm just saying, what if LSU's defense all of a sudden is pretty darn good again? And is the rest of the offense good enough to make LSU a contender? And on the flip side, what if Missouri cannot stop anybody? because they lost so many dudes to the NFL. I'm
they're going to be
about,
average then.
It's the Blake Baker continuum here. It's the Blake Baker bowl here. If LSU all of a sudden is really good and Missouri's all of a sudden really bad, I don't know what to make of the top tier what happens to those two programs.
I don't either. And Drinkwitz has a lot of momentum right now. And, Rick Neuheisel, my co-host on Full Ride, just hung out with him yesterday at the Peach Bowl Challenge and said Drink's just, he's in great spirits. He's a cool dude. Really excited about their program and what they accomplished and where things are going. And he's super complimentary of the state legislature and what they've done there to give them a competitive advantage from a legal perspective, from a law perspective, and what it's done for high school recruits in Missouri, kind of giving them the budge there. So it would be kind of shocking and weird if they all of a sudden took this, weird drastic step backward.
They're not going to be good on defense.
But are they going to be atrocious on defense? That's the question mark.
No, but they lost their architect in Baker, who's very good. They
did.
They lost the best pass rusher in Darius Robinson. They lost both safeties. They lost Tyrone Hopper. They lost a lot of veteran leadership on that defense. This is not Alabama's second. This is not an Alabama depth chart. It's a Missouri depth chart. They're going to be very good on offense.
They got Brady Cook and Luther Burden. They're going to be really good on offense.
They're going to be very good on offense.
Then they're probably 7-5, 8-4 if they're not very good on defense, or maybe 6-6. I still think that offense is good enough for a bowl. As far as LSU, wouldn't it be unbelievable irony if a year after they had the best quarterback in college football, the best player, probably in college football, if a year after having him in an explosive offense and a defense that couldn't stop anything, if their defense was good this year and their offense blew, and the results might be the exact same. They might be, just what did they win last year? 9 games?
No, I think they were 10-3.
10-3. Okay.
Best offense in school history, which includes a 2019 Joe Burrow led team.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is going to happen with LSU. Now, this is not like a bold, crazy prediction. It's more like a kind of a basic prediction. I think the defense takes like 2 or 3 steps forward and they go from dead last in the conference to like middle of the pack, 7th or 8th. I think the offense goes from number 1 to like number 4 or 5. So the offense takes 1 step back. The defense takes 2 or 3 steps forward. The question is Garrett? Because I think losing Mike Denbrock is a much bigger deal.
No, I agree.
But
does that make him like 9-3 at that point, or
I think that's close to challenging for a playoff spot. And the Alabama game at home probably decides potentially a playoff spot for both teams. Guess what? LSU Alabama, pretty good.
Pretty good. And in Tiger Stadium, really good.
Yes.
Really good. I went to LSU Alabama last year in Tuscaloosa, which was good. Really good. But Tiger Stadium's really, really good.
Yeah.
For a game like that.
What happens if Georgia loses 2 games and then goes on and wins the national championship? How do we look at the playoff system?
We just got to understand it's different. 12 teams. I mean, we're not in this exclusive world anymore where you have to, where you have to be perfect in the regular season or close to it to win it all. I mean, this will show you that teams can get better as the season goes on, that like in the NFL or any other sport we've ever watched in our life, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So college football is the only sport where we've kind of, it's like
100-yard dash like every Saturday.
Yeah, but
100
we've killed people for losing a couple of games, but I think, in every other sport, you realize a team can, have an injury or have this or that and can be completely different by the end of the year and might end up responding and winning it all. So you could be great from wire to wire. I'll use UConn basketball as another example of that, right? Like we knew they would be great and they were great and they won the whole thing. But sometimes teams need a little break. They need to mature, maybe an injury, whatever it is. And they might be completely different with a chance. But college football is the only sport in the world where we've never figured that out. So it would be very novel to do that.
Don't you think we changed a little bit, though, with the 14 playoff in 2014?
A little.
Like, I remember saying this on the air when I was still working at Sirius a lot, where I was saying that we used to value the 0 in the loss column. It was the thing we all sought. Like, even as a fan of a team in a different conference or like everything, everyone was fighting for perfection. And then when the playoff committee became the way we decided who got into the playoff, it was, well, the 1 isn't automatically worse than the 0. You might have played a significantly more difficult schedule. And if this team had played those games, they'd probably have 2 losses, or, those kinds of conversations started to happen. And I just think we've moved the Overton window again. And now it's like, well, the teams that are going to be fighting for those last 3 or 4 spots, like slots 9 through 12, one of them is going to be a G5 team. But the teams, or I guess through 14 potentially coming up, the teams that are going to be fighting for those spots are all going to be like 8-2 in November with like 3 games to play, or 4 games to play, or 2 games to play. And it's like everyone's like worried about the Texas-Alabama game not having value. It still has incredible value.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got these 20 other games between these, like, it's the 6-1 Kentucky versus 6-1 Florida that all of a sudden becomes an enormous football game. Or Arkansas is 5-1 and they're playing Texas A&M, who's 3-1 or 4-1. And all of a sudden, like, that game carries an extraordinary amount of gravity. And I mean,
our eyeballs are going to gravitate towards it. It's going to be great for TV.
We just have to get used to it.
That's it. It's just change.
But
what I said this morning, I feel like we're did you ever watch the Brady Bunch when Peter Brady was going through puberty and his voice was changing and he was really awkward and didn't really know how to talk? That's how I feel like we're in puberty mode. Like we're getting chest hairs and we're starting to figure out if you.
So the college football playoff is spending a lot of time at home behind a door with a tube sock, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, remember like when you were at a certain age and you started to figure out that jet in the pool felt pretty good? That's where we're at right now. We're kind of rubbing up against the jet and starting to figure things out. And
there's an unspoken law. Like you're a father of a daughter. I'm a father of 2 daughters. There's an unspoken rule in a household with a father and a son. Don't ask questions.
No,
don't ask questions.
No, hell no.
I agree. College football is going through a lot of growing
through
pains.
Puberty. Yeah.
A lot of growing pains. I completely agree. Now here's what I wonder though. Do you feel like it takes away, like, because I think Georgia is totally, because their schedule is so hard, but they're clearly the best team. I think it's absolutely possible that they're like 11-2 SEC champ. They get a bye week in the first round and they go on and win the whole thing. And we have only our second 2-loss champion of all time. I think it's very possible that happens.
Sure.
And I can already hear the bitching and moaning from the purists who are like, well, like it's the same folks that thought Florida State got
over quantity, or
it's the same folks that thought Florida State got hosed last year because they happen to have the 0. Well, it's not about the 0 anymore.
No,
it's about this. It's about the schedule and who are you? And if you lose your quarterback and you aren't great anymore, like I understand the committee doing what they did. I understand Florida State fans who are pissed off. But if Georgia had been in the playoff last year, I think they would have won the whole thing.
I do too. Totally agree with that.
And I don't know.
I thought Georgia was the best team.
I'm okay with Georgia doing that because they would have been a 1-loss team. And I still think that the 2-loss thing is still going to be hard for people to understand. I feel like that one's going to be hard, I think.
Until we figure it out. I think it'll be hard for like 5 years and then it'll be normal.
All right, quickly, we'll do a couple of other ones here. And I know I got an Arkansas fan in here. What happens if Bobby Petrino is the head coach at Arkansas by the start of November?
Lock away the volleyball team.
Lock away the entire athletic facility.
That's it. Yeah. I know the secretary's going to
All right, bad
pissed,
jokes.
Dude.
All right, get your bad jokes out of the way. Get your bad. Is he not a qualified head coach at Arkansas?
He's qualified. I think it would be incredible. Knowing what I know about the people that worked for him and how they feel about him. And
allegedly.
Yeah, it would be amazing. It would be fantastic.
He is good. You know how hard it's going to be for the people around the program that have money and have power.
Oh, it's going to happen.
To watch a struggling Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman, I love Sam Pittman. I'm rooting for
he's
Sam
there.
Pittman. But if Sam Pittman, if they lose some games and they are 3-4, and it's close to where you would normally make a decision to fire a coach, and you've got Bobby Petrino sitting there on the staff,
fire up the Harley.
Do you know how loud the call? The calling of the hogs is going to be.
What if he came riding in on a hog? He riding in on a Harley, just
at practice on Monday. I think he's
volleyball player on the back.
He's going to be the interim head coach at Arkansas.
It's going to happen. Yeah, I agree. And he might be the full time, and it will be the greatest. Jeff Long's head might explode. Jeff Long's head might explode. The former AD at Arkansas, who had to get rid of Petrino.
I do think that it like Sam Pittman is an interesting case study to me in that I thought he was sort of like with Josh Heupel and Mark Stoops and a lot of these guys, like they're just ball coaches. They're honest. Yeah. They just sort of talk ball. They're just ball. They're honest with their players. They're good people. Like I am I thought when all those guys were kind of finding success a couple of years ago, I thought, you know what, we might be in for a new genre of coach, just a ball coach who's a good person. And sure enough, the SEC fucking chews those people up and they spits them out. And I'm bummed that Sam Pittman is probably not going to make it. I know we're writing the obit
Sure
here.
enough, you have to be a sleaze bag to have success.
Apparently, now maybe he shocks the world and Arkansas is really good, and I wouldn't be surprised at anything in this league. But all right, last one here, or a couple more here. What if Lenora Sellers?
Hurry up.
What if Lenora Sellers is like elite? What if he's elite?
That would be something, wouldn't it? Do you think
what if the Cam Newton comparisons are legit?
Cam was special. Cam was like watching Superman in a football uniform with the way that guy could move, the fluidity of his body, his strength. If we have another Cam Newton, that's going to be really good for us as fans. I will, because minus the, antics, but, and remember when he like had Cam juice and all, like he was a little wild, but, it would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
He hasn't changed.
No, he has not.
South Carolina has so many big games with contenders, many of which are in Columbia. If Lenora Sellers is really good, he's going to get somebody, and it could cost, because we are now talking about these margins, right? Where you're 10-2, you make the playoff, but 9-3, you're done. I think if he's really, really good, South Carolina is going to blow up a couple of seasons. Now, I don't think that's going to happen.
Shane Beamer's a cool guy, man.
But I'm saying it's possible.
I love him. Yeah, but
it's possible.
Is he too nice of a guy? Is he Sam Pittman-y? You know what I mean? Like,
I love him. No.
I love him.
You don't think so? I don't think he's cut from the same cloth. I think he's cut more from. I think he's cut more from your boy's cloth, Rick Neuheisel.
Then let's go. I think Neuheisel would have crushed it.
I think
in the NIL era with his ability to bullshit and schmooze people. I don't think there's any doubt.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's some James Franklin to his game.
Yeah, Neuheisel's as bullshitty as they come, so he would have been great.
I don't think winning the press conference is how you win games, and I still don't think that. I think you're collective. And
got to schmooze people, man. You got it. Yeah.
Florida and Auburn. I think they're both going to be good. Which one do you like better?
Auburn. I don't discount Hugh Freeze. I think Hugh Freeze is a fabulous football coach with an offense that'll work this year. I know you said you were high on Florida, but
high relative to expectations.
I think Napier's done at the end of the year.
Oh,
I think they finished below 500.
Ooh, 5-7. I think they beat Miami.
I think Auburn's 7-5, so I'll go Auburn.
Okay. I think they're both
great.
I kind of agree, and I think what's going to happen is Florida is going to be like they're going to upset A&M and Miami at home. Maybe that's not an upset.
Yeah,
and they lose to Tennessee, but they start the season 6-1, and then that gives them some ground to lose some games because their schedule at the back half is just absurd. And they're going to lose a lot of those games. Like they're going to lose, I think it's Texas and Georgia, and like it's brutal.
Yeah.
But then they got LSU and Ole Miss at home, and all they need to do is I think pull one upset in one of those two games late in the year. So I think here's the lesson in this exercise was to have some fun, talk ball, and kind of create some new mental paths for what's going to happen in the season. I think the number one rule about 2024 college football in the SEC and any other conference is prepare for some crazy shit to happen because we don't know what we're walking into. The coaches don't know. The players don't know. The media doesn't know. The fans don't know. The games are still great on Saturdays in that 60-minute window in that stadium, but we don't know, man, how this is all going to work. And it could be complete and total 2007 type chaos. And I think that's what we're going to get this season. I think we're going to get
go. I'm ready for it.
I'm ready.
Dude, let's go. Hell yeah.
It's going to be awesome. So just enjoy it. Enjoy it. You know, it's growing pains. It's going to take us all time to get used to how different everything is. But I'm telling you, when that video game comes out and everybody's playing all of a sudden and they're like, holy shit, I'm playing. It's going to be Ole Miss versus Florida for the chance to go to the playoff like that. People are going to love this system. They're going to love it. But it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. So
growing pains, puberty.
Let's get weird. Let's get weird. At Childers Radio on
remember the pool, Jet.
Twitter.
Just remember the pool, Jet.
Works every time.
It gets better.
Just ask the pool for consent first, okay? Let's get consent first.
100%.
Where can people listen to your dumbass?
You can listen to me in 5 minutes on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Chris Buescher and I are together today on Backstretch Banner as we are coming off the Monster Mile in Dover, going to Kansas. And then tomorrow, you can hear me with Coach Neuheisel on Full Ride at 9 9 a.m. Eastern on Channel 84.
Every single morning.
Sirius XM. Mm-hmm.
There you go, Sirius XM.
But NASCAR, 4 minutes from now.
There you go. Excellent stuff, of course, from Chris Childers and all you guys in the comment section. We do appreciate you guys. My name is Braden Gall. Thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you guys next week.